The All-Star break is over, and the Hurricanes have a very favorable schedule in February where they can get a lot of points. Let's talk about it. So to paint a picture of where we're at right now, the Hurricanes have won their last 3 games and are 7-2-1 in their last 10, and are firmly in second place in the Metropolitan Division despite the rough start. At the time of recording this video, the New York Rangers are currently playing against the Colorado Avalanche, and they had a pretty bad January, being 4-5-1 in their last 10 games. The Hurricanes are firmly in second place, 2 points behind with 1 game in hand, and will have a 4-point swing directly against the Rangers on March the 12th. The upcoming schedule is very linear, and it's a good chance for the Hurricanes to get into a rhythm. The season series between the Hurricanes and the Rangers is currently tied at 1 apiece, and whoever wins that game will win the season series. It very well could be a decisive game in determining who wins the Metropolitan Division. And while I think the Hurricanes don't necessarily need to win the division, with them being a very defensively minded team, having home ice advantage and being able to have last change and dictate matchups will definitely help more than it will hurt. Starting tomorrow night, former Hurricane Elias Lindholm will make his debut with the Vancouver Canucks in the building in which his career started, in that of PNC Arena. This will be an important test. Vancouver is absolutely on fire this year, and Jim Rutherford, as we saw with Carolina, he will overpay to get somebody, and he made sure that the Vancouver Canucks got Elias Lindholm. After that will be the Colorado Avalanche. I think we all remember during the rough start, Colorado absolutely picked the Hurricanes apart. That game will be one of the litmus tests to see the progress that the Hurricanes have made compared to the start of the season. The most important game that week will actually be on Whalers Night versus the New Jersey Devils, and will be one of only 2 Metropolitan Division games that month. While New Jersey has been mired by injuries, you don't want them making the Metropolitan Division any more interesting than it already is. So it's best to beat them in regulation and keep them out of the playoff picture. So that's the 3-game homestand that the Hurricanes will open up with before going on a 3-game road trip. After a couple of days off, the Hurricanes will travel to play the Dallas Stars, who are really good. In my opinion, I think that they're a cup contender. While they don't play an identical game to the Hurricanes, they do have great defense. They've got Joe Pavelski, who's one of the best net front guys in the league, probably in history as well. Jason Robertson, very dynamic winger. Veteran presence of Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. Miro Heiskanen, one of my favorite non-Hurricanes. Great two-way defenseman, one of the best in the league. Jake Ottinger has shown that he's looking like he could be the starting goalie for Team USA in the upcoming Four Nations tournament and the Olympics. After that, the Hurricanes will get 1 day of travel and then go to play the Arizona Coyotes, who are currently still in the playoff hunt. We recently saw the Coyotes in PNC Arena, where the Hurricanes had a hard-fought 3-1 win, very much an identity game, where Connor Ingram did everything he could to steal it for the Coyotes, and the Hurricanes found a way to break through. That game was a very good sign that maybe the Hurricanes aren't going to get goalied so much, and that's going to be important down the stretch, because getting goalied is what did the Hurricanes in the playoffs last season, injuries aside. So immediately after that, they will play Vegas the next day in the first of 2 back-to-backs this month. Vegas won't be playing the night before, so they'll likely have Adin Hill in net, and he is a big difference maker for Vegas. Part of the reason the Hurricanes were able to absolutely handle them last time is because Adin Hill wasn't in net. They're the Stanley Cup champions. They retained the majority of their roster. They're a very good team. And they'll also be coming off of a 4-day break. After that, the Hurricanes will come back home to face the Chicago Blackhawks, starting another 3-game homestand. Chicago will probably be well rested, though. That is their only away game of the month. Connor Bedard may or may not be back from his injury at that point. Either way, the Hurricanes need to approach that game the same way, whether he's there or not. They've got a lot of veterans on that team. They've got a lot of young kids on that team. It's a trap game, but the Hurricanes should walk away with 2 points in that one as well. So then the Hurricanes get a couple of days off, and then the Florida Panthers will come to town on the 22nd. I will be at that game. The Panthers had a 5-2 win that was way too easy for them. The Hurricanes let that game totally get away from them. They didn't do much of anything right that night. As aforementioned, with the game against the Colorado Avalanche that will take place the week prior, that is a good chance for the Hurricanes to gauge how far they've come since the rough start. That would be a good game for the Hurricanes to make a statement in the event that we see the Florida Panthers again in the playoffs. It is a distinct possibility. They're a good team. They ride their goaltending a lot. They play a very aggravating and physical game. They have a lot of sandpaper on that team. The Hurricanes have added some sandpaper. It's really going to have to show up in that game. The Hurricanes will then play the Dallas Stars again on the 24th. I will be at that game as well. This is where some attrition from this month might start to set in, because they will have had several games against Western Conference teams that are possibly cup contenders. Florida, which is definitely a cup contender. And as it stands right now, the game against Dallas on the 24th is slated for an 8 p.m. start time. That could change, as the Hurricanes did change the original start time with the Colorado game this week to start at 7 as opposed to 8. And the Hurricanes will have a really quick turnaround because they'll be playing the Buffalo Sabres in a 6 p.m. game the very next day on the road. And that game will be the first of a 3-game road trip to finish out the month of February. Buffalo is not nearly as good this year as anybody predicted, myself included. I thought the Sabres were going to take the next step and be at least competing for a wild card spot. I actually really expected them to be in one, but you still can't take them lightly. That will be the second game this month that I would say is probably more of a trap game. As a matter of fact, this entire week is full of trap games. After a day of travel to Minnesota, the Hurricanes will be playing the Wild. The Wild will be coming off a 3-day break, so in the event he's not traded, I don't think he will be by then yet. Marc-Andre Fleury will probably be in net. Kirill Kaprizov needs no introduction. It's a good test for the Hurricanes to play against star power like that to make sure that they can do what they need to do defensively. Even on teams that aren't doing so well in the standings, they can still cause you some problems. And after another day of travel, they will end the month against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who do not have Adam Fantilli at the moment, as he is out with an ankle laceration for the next 8 weeks. So, there's several reasons why I think the Hurricanes having a successful February is going to be indicative of how well the rest of the regular season is going to go for them. One, it can be really hard to get into a rhythm after the All-Star break. It's been a long layoff. Additionally, I'll make a separate video about it when it gets closer to that time. March is going to be a much more arduous schedule in terms of how demanding the travel is going to be and the opponents that the Hurricanes are going to have, and there's going to be a lot more games that will be 4-point swings against Metropolitan Division teams. Whereas in February, out of the 12 games the Hurricanes are playing, 8 of them will be against Western Conference teams, of which 6 of them are at least in the playoff picture, but 3 of them are cup contenders in my opinion. Only 2 games versus Metropolitan teams, one being Columbus, and they've been out of it since training camp, the other one being New Jersey, and like I said before, Carolina needs to just go ahead and get 2 points against them in regulation and keep them as far below the cut line as possible. 2 games versus Atlantic Division teams, the most difficult out of those being the Florida Panthers, which could end up being the most difficult game the Hurricanes have all month. It's also very linear in terms of the travel schedule. 3 games home, 3 games away, 3 games home, 3 games away. It's 12 games in 23 days, so the Hurricanes will be playing roughly every other day. They'll only have 2 back-to-backs. By the time that they do the second back-to-back where they're flying up to Buffalo after a late start against Dallas, some attrition may start to set in, but luckily that entire week they're not playing the greatest team, so they should come away with at least 4 points in the last week out of the 6 available. So this is an excellent time for the Hurricanes to, as Justin Williams once said, make some hay, go into February with a ton of momentum, and then April has a very similar schedule as well to wrap up the regular season where it's going to be pretty linear. So this is a good time for the Hurricanes to be able to get right back into the swing of things, knock the rust off, get to it. Out of the 24 possible points, I don't see any reason why the Hurricanes can't walk away with at least 18. I imagine that they'll win 9 games this month roughly. They can do it, take first place in the Metropolitan Division, and then get ready for what's going to be their most arduous month so far in the regular season, in that of March, finish strong in April, and then get ready for the playoffs. Now, I don't know what's going to happen trade acquisition-wise. I don't know if the Hurricanes are going to make a move or not. At this point, I'm leaning towards I don't think that they're going to make a massive move. I would still like for them to acquire at least one forward, but that's a discussion for another video. If y'all like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you will, consider please donating to my Buy Me a Coffee. The link will be in the description. Y'all take care. I'll see you next time.